I'm moving forward every day. Jesus, I just let him lead the way every second, every minute, every hour of the day. I'm moving with Jesus every day. 24/7 with Jesus every day. 24/7. I'm moving with Jesus. I'm moving with Jesus every day.
For some people, the only form of exercise they get is jumping to conclusion, running up the bills, stretching the truth, lying on the job, bending over backwards, sidestepping responsibility, and even pushing their luck. But of course, you can do much better than that. You guessed it, we are going to be talking about exercise this morning. And on set today is our resident doctor, if you please, Dr. Joe. We welcome you back to JC 24/7.
Thank you so much, Pastor. It's a pleasure to be back.
Thank you so much for allowing us the privilege. But before we get into exercise proper, we want to talk a little bit about the immune system.
Yes.
And what's the relationship between sugar and the immune system?
Well, that's a very important link to make. What we have realized is that in the Western world, persons are consuming way more sugar than they need. Worst of all, most of the sugar they consume is refined sugar.
Okay.
It's found in soft drinks, or as the Americans call it, soda.
All right. All right.
And it's a very convenient drink to get.
We call it sweet drink and stuff like that.
Sweet drink,
Yeah,
yeah, soft
okay.
drink, and so on in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Right.
And what we have realized is that the consumption of that, in one instance, is leading to childhood obesity. Yes, and I have heard recently that the Ministry of Education is embarking on disallowing
Wow.
soft drinks,
Right.
the selling of soft drinks in our schools
So
nationwide.
that's bad news for for those who sell it, but good news for the students.
Yes, and for the future of
Okay.
the health of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
The other, as you would have referenced, it is true that an consumption of sugar affects the immune system. And if there's one system we would like to
Right.
function optimally in our bodies,
Right.
it is the immune system. That is the defense mechanism that
Okay.
protects us from all disease.
Right.
So if you consume too much sugar, it is likely that you will be damaging or you will be impairing the function of the immune system.
Okay.
And so even in diseases, viruses, the common cold, other viruses, and even to fight diseases such as cancer.
Cancer too?
Yes, you
Okay,
need your
okay.
immune system to be working optimally.
Right.
So you really want to regulate the amount of sugar you consume. There are other beverages that you can choose that are better than soft drink.
Right. Of course, therefore, the advice you will give to persons who are diagnosed with some of these diseases is to consume less sugar.
Definitely
Okay.
consume less
Would
sugar.
of course, less sugar would not include fruits and stuff like that, or would we?
Well,
have-
no, I'm more dealing with refined
Refined
sugar,
sugar, right.
or natural sugars. Fruits come with their own
Right.
package of
Good.
sugar in the right amount. So if
Good.
you eat the fruit whole,
Right.
as opposed to juicing it as well, you get the balance of the
Right.
sugar with the fiber and the other phytochemicals and
Okay.
nutrients.
So
Yes.
you want to make a pitch for God. God knew exactly what he was doing.
Definitely. He always packages
Right.
the food in the appropriate proportions.
And
Yes.
anything man does is comes up short.
All the time.
To copy God. You can't really copy God. How can
We
you copy?
can't, we
How can finite minds copy an infinite God?
Yes, it's an impossible mission.
It's a
definitely.
possibility. What about fatty foods and stuff like that? What relationship they have with the body and its consumption? Because I've been told in some cases, like for instance, cholesterol. Whenever I hear cholesterol, it sort of signals something negative
Right.
in my cerebral cortex, if you please.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct to say that? That it's always negative.
It definitely is not always negative. In fact, your body needs cholesterol, so much so that how our bodies were made by God, we produce cholesterol. So you don't even need to consume cholesterol in your diet because cholesterol is essential. It plays a part in forming proper cell walls in your body, or cell membranes rather,
Okay.
for that surround all your cells. It's important for the manufacturing of some of the hormones that we need
Okay.
for proper survival and differentiation of
Okay.
traits and so on.
Okay.
So it's very important. It's an essential element. However, as with many other things, too much of a good thing can be detrimental.
Right.
So cholesterol in high amounts, or fats, because what we have found is that persons who consume a high fat diet,
Right.
particularly saturated fats and
Right.
trans fats, their bodies end up producing more cholesterol than
Wow.
it needs, and
Wow.
that cholesterol ends up in the bloodstream.
Wow.
And that can be detrimental to health. So much so, Pastor, I should tell you that in doing a number of community health programs in recent times, I've found that more than high blood pressure, more than high blood sugar levels, many of our citizens have a high blood cholesterol level.
Wow.
And it doesn't surprise me, I should tell you,
Right.
given that we often consume a lot of fried food,
Okay.
a lot of fatty food,
Right.
greasy foods,
right.
and it tastes good,
Right.
but it's not doing our bodies well.
Okay.
And the one other thing I would say on having too much fat in one's diet is that it can lead to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. A lot of people are not
Okay.
mindful of
That's
that.
interesting.
They think if you eat too much cake and drink soft drink, which are not good habits,
Right.
but a high fat diet has been directly linked to the development of type 2 diabetes.
And type 2 diabetes, for our benefit, is what exactly as opposed to
That
type
is
1?
that is the one we find in most of the adult population, whereby the cells of the body become resistant
Right.
to insulin. So
Right.
your pancreas, that organ, does produce the insulin, but the cells of your body become resistant to it.
Okay. Between type 1 and type 2 are both transmitted genetically.
They both are, but there's a slightly stronger link, interestingly, with type 2 diabetes.
It's interesting,
But yes.
which I think is what my father had, by the way. I know when you're growing up, you are always told, even now I've been told, that any one of his children is susceptible to getting type 2 diabetes. And therefore, we must watch what we eat and consume and stuff like that. And we keep hearing these stories, Pastor, that if your parents were hypertensive, you are going to be hypertensive, or you are liable or susceptible to becoming hypertensive. My question is this cycle ever going to end? Because if you are going to be hypertensive, then your children are going to be hypertensive. Is there a way of breaking that curse or reversing that curse?
Yes, so the good news today is that that curse can be broken.
It can?
Yes.
Okay.
It's often said, some say that genetics loads the gun and lifestyle choices pulls the trigger.
All right.
And there's some truth to that
Okay.
statement, but
Okay.
the better news today is that by your lifestyle choices, you can even unload the gun
Have
of its
mercy.
bullets.
Come on now, man.
Yeah, so there's an emerging field in medical science called epigenetics. Epi meaning over and above what is genetic. So we know that the genes we inherit from our parents
Right.
control a lot of who we are, how we look, what diseases we may be prone to getting.
Right.
But studies are showing increasingly so now that the choices we make, particularly in terms of our dietary habits, exercising, even our whole mindset, can affect which of our genes are expressed, or simply put, which are turned on and which ones are deactivated or
Wow.
silenced
Right.
or turned off. So even if you inherited from your parents genes that would make you more prone to developing diabetes or hypertension, etc., based on the positive lifestyle choices you make,
Right.
you can have those genes deactivated or
Right.
silenced.
Right.
And the even more fabulous news that's emerging is that if you consistently make those choices before you have children, it
Right.
is possible
Right.
that even your children who are born would be born with
Right.
those genes already switched off.
Have mercy.
So the curse would effectively be broken.
Pretty good. Beautiful. And if your children, conversely, because if your children now are born and are benefited from your lifestyle, they, if they're not watchful, could become first generation type 2 diabetes patients. In other words, they can restart the cycle if they're not careful.
So the fact of the matter is the lifestyle choices we make are more impacting than the genes we inherit. So both ways, even in and of itself, lifestyle choices will pull the trigger, certainly. But your lifestyle choices can also determine whether the bullets stay in the gun, so to speak. So you can get rid of the trigger and the bullets,
All right.
and totally minimize any chances of you developing these chronic non-communicable
So
diseases.
there is hope for my brothers and for myself as well.
Yes, Pastor, there is hope for you.
We can reverse the curse by whatever we do, by the blessing of God, and by applying certain principles in our lives. God, I mean, the whole question of diabetes, can diabetes be prevented or can it be cured once you have it?
Well,
is it possible?
It's a very touchy question to answer, but what I can say is that there are cases where persons who would have had diabetes, maybe not for a long period of time, where permanent damage is already done, but with the proper lifestyle choices and the consistency of making those choices, they have seen their symptoms disappear. And then they no longer meet the criteria for one to be diagnosed as having diabetes. So that has happened. There are persons walking around with that testimony. So there is hope for any diabetic.
Because I have heard of at least one gentleman who used to inject himself with insulin every morning, and he resisted that, went to the gym every morning, 60 plus years, and he is in optimum health, from what I understand. So I suppose in some cases, if we decide to, make that the consistent attempt to live right and to eat healthily, we can avoid having, or at least not perpetuate the disease in our bodies.
Yes, definitely that is so. And as to reiterate, the choices you would want to make to give yourself the best shot at that happening, you'd want to, on your scale of calories, you'd want more to come from the plant-based section. You would want whole foods, and last week we gave some examples of whole foods. And you definitely would want to decrease the amount of fatty foods in your diet, because fatty foods make the cells resistant to insulin. Insulin comes in like a key to unlock the cells, to allow the sugar to go from the bloodstream into the cells. And then if the keyhole, as it were, is jammed, then insulin is not able to work effectively.
Beautiful, beautiful. I did say that we will be talking about exercise, but I have to sort of lay the foundation. So if you exercise some patients and come right back, we'll continue our discussion on exercise and its value and importance. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Someone has said, if you wish to be fit as a fiddle, learn to tone down the middle. Pastor Dr. Joe, we are talking about exercise. You look fit as a fiddle yourself. You look young. What's the benefit of exercise upon your body and upon the bodies of those of us who participate in this?
Well, exercise has numerous benefits. I once heard a doctor ask a question. If there was a pill that one can purchase that would decrease the risk of most of the non-communicable diseases we have,
Right.
hypertension, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and would also improve your mood, help you to sleep better at night, and do a number of other things for you. How much will you be willing to pay for that pill?
Tell me where to get it, brother.
Well, that pill is free, Pastor, and it's called exercise.
All right.
Exercise has all of these benefits and more. And most of persons neglect exercise because of the busy lifestyles they lead. But I want to suggest it's important. Persons who have already been diagnosed with certain non-communicable diseases or lifestyle diseases, as we call them, will also benefit tremendously from exercise.
Right.
They either have, less severe symptoms, or in some cases, as we alluded to before the break,
Right.
even see a reversal of their condition.
But Pastor, people. I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying, but there are folk who say I exercise every day. I go to the shop, I buy a few things, I come back, I go to the church, which is about a block away from me. I walk there every day, twice a day. Am I not exercising?
Right. So, interestingly, I've heard persons tell me similar things
Right.
in these community health programs, but most of this exercise, it's leisurely walking,
Right.
and it doesn't have the same effect on the body as intentional exercise.
Okay.
So there are various categories, if you will, of exercising that we want to look at. The first of them I'll mention is the simplest one, called after meal exercise.
Right.
And recent studies have shown, Pastor, that after meal exercise, which basically comes down to doing light to moderate exercise, light walking and so on, immediately after you eat.
Right.
So as soon as you put down the spoon or the fork or what have you, or if you're using your hands, instead of just laying back
Right.
and watching the television or reading the newspaper, you get up and you walk around, you do something, you keep active for about
You're talking
15 to 20 minutes.
Morning or evening, or it doesn't matter.
Every time you eat,
Oh,
particularly your
okay.
heavier meals, so
Okay.
breakfast and lunch,
Right.
it's good. This study was done really in the context of improving outcomes of diabetic patients.
Okay.
And what was shown conclusively is that the persons who did after meal exercise on a consistent basis, they experienced very little or no spiking of their sugars
All right.
after eating.
Right.
2 hours after eating, sometimes or less, the blood sugar spikes. Well, that's natural.
Right.
But for diabetics, it can be out of control. But persons who do after meal exercise
Right.
have seen the benefits where this does not occur.
So what about those who like to get up 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning before they eat breakfast and they exercise? Are they in error for doing such a thing?
No, certainly not. The aerobic exercise, which is the second category of exercise, is very much in place when done before meals. In fact, it's advised that you would not want to do aerobic exercise very close to after consuming meals.
Okay.
Right? You would want to either do it before eating, so getting up early is a great idea, or you would want to wait maybe 1 or at least 2 hours after eating to do that aerobic exercise. However, just before getting deeper into that, I wanted to say the after meal exercise is by no means only for diabetics or persons with that tendency. It's good for anyone.
Right.
What you would not want to do is the converse of that, whereby you eat and then you go lie down or you go sleep or you snooze, somewhere on your couch. That is not healthy.
Wow.
And if you do after meal exercise, it is unlikely that you will experience that food coma, or that which we have many other names for in Trinidad and Tobago. So
hear you.
it's a good thing to do.
Pastor, I'm sure you're challenging a lot of Christian believers right now.
Yes, sir.
Whether you are going to church on Sunday or go to church on Saturday, the fact is after lunch, after church, the natural thing is to relax. You can't go in the savannah after you've eaten. So what advice would you give to such a person?
Yes, after you've had your good
Your Sunday
Sabbath
best,
lunch or
yeah,
Sunday
Sabbath
lunch,
meal,
what?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
you should get up and do some walking and go around the church, go around the area. I remember I was in a health conference and we did that. We
Okay.
got up and we took a walk around the block after lunch on Sabbath.
Right.
So it's a very good practice.
So those who say this is the day the Lord has made, let us rejoice and rest in it. Because it is Sabbath rest. It's the day of rest and gladness, Pastor. Why should I be walking on a day of rest?
Well, you will definitely experience the gladness. Your body would be so much happier for you making that choice.
Okay.
But coming back to the aerobic exercise,
Right.
which is one most persons think of, it's well advised for each person
Right.
as far as it's possible to do 30 to 45 minutes of aerobic exercise about 3 to 5 times a week,
Right.
4 times ideal. You'd want to get that in.
Right.
And that has so many benefits for persons who have not been diagnosed or those who have been diagnosed with chronic non-communicable diseases. So we have seen improvement in the blood pressure of individuals. We have seen the lowering of blood sugars because exercise alone, independent of insulin, whether it's the one your body produces via the pancreas, or if you take it exogenously through a needle and syringe, exercise on its own, independent of insulin, lowers blood sugars.
Wow.
It has a similar effect as to insulin.
What's the relationship between exercise and the heart and the function of the heart?
Well, the heart is a muscle.
Right.
And as with any other muscle or muscle group, exercise strengthens that muscle or muscle group. So when you do aerobic exercise, it builds cardiovascular endurance. That simply means that your heart becomes stronger.
Right.
And so after a while, your body is able to, with fewer heartbeats, have the same volume of blood circulated to all its tissues.
Okay.
And so you end up with your heart beating less times for the duration of the day and still being as effective.
It's less time but stronger beats.
That's right.
So it sends much more with that beat
Yes.
instead of having to beat too often. That's interesting
Yes.
because when folk suffer from cardiovascular disease, they have to now be mindful of how much they walk to affect. It may affect the function of the heart and stuff like
Yes,
that.
and yes, that is true, and how vigorously they exercise. That's why while you can,
Right.
you should do it.
Right.
And a simple measure to know how, because persons want to know how intense should I do this aerobic exercise, this
Yes,
brisk
tell
walking.
us.
Well, one measure one can use is when you begin to walk, if you are able to speak still, but you're not able to sing or whistle as comfortably, then
Okay.
you're just about at the right intensity. Yes.
So I could speak, but I must not be able to sing.
Or whistle,
whistle
comfortably.
comfortably.
Yes, yes.
And that's when I say if I could whistle comfortably, or I could sing comfortably.
You probably need to pick up the pace a bit. You're
That's
strolling. Yes, yes.
Beautiful. What are the other forms of exercise that we would
Right.
need
The other form, the third one would be strength training.
Right.
And most persons may achieve that by going to the gym. But even if you don't have the money or the time or it's a gym is not close to where you live or work, you can still do strength training exercises.
Right.
You can get equipment that uses resistance,
Right.
these resistance bands.
Right.
Or if you're now starting off, you can use cans of vegetables or peas or water bottles. But do something. Because, yes, Pastor, because the studies are showing
I
that
hear you.
persons who do both aerobic exercise and strength training,
Right.
they get added benefits rather than doing any one of them in isolation.
I
So
see.
when you do both,
Okay.
you experience greater benefit. So whether you do it at the gym or you do it at home
Right.
or in your office, it's a good thing to do.
So this does not necessarily mean or include weightlifting. Strength training is not weightlifting.
No, well, it does include,
include
you
it.
don't have to use weights, as I'm saying. You
Okay.
can use resistance
Resistance,
bands,
right.
or you can use weights, whether it's the dumbbells or the barbells or cans of peas and vegetables or water
What if I use my
bottles.
wife to lift her up and stuff?
Well, if you have that permission and privilege, sure, Pastor, sure. I
I said, what
imagine,
if?
I imagine for some persons that may be a challenge.
Maybe the reverse might happen.
Yes.
She might lift him.
That's right. But however you're able to accomplish it, you get that combination of aerobic exercise and strength training in your weekly or daily routine.
Very
It
good.
will augur very well for your health.
Very good. Any other formulas we have missed?
Yes, the last one, which is really one you would do once you have the first two or three
Right.
together,
Okay.
is the most advanced of them, called intermittent training.
Right.
And you often incorporate that into your aerobic exercise routine, whereby if you're walking, for example, around the savannah, intermittent training would be increasing the intensity of your exercise for short bursts of time. So if you're walking for 30 seconds, you will run as quickly as you can, and then use 90 seconds to recover, and then repeat. But if you're now starting off, Pastor, I would not advise that you do that as
Why
yet.
are you calling my name, sir?
No, I'm just referencing. You probably are professional. You can do all training.
Not at all, sir. Not at all. I'll get there. I'll get
Yes,
there.
yes.
All right. Pastor, before we close, let's bring in God. Why would God want us to exercise our bodies?
I believe he would definitely. God created our bodies to move, and if you believe in the creation account, even before sin entered the world, God gave man work to do.
Come on now.
So clearly, it was always his intention for the optimal functioning of this human body that you must work, you must exert yourself physically, because that is how our bodies were created.
Right.
So even now, in this context of the world in which we live, exercise is important.
Right.
And there are simple choices one can make. Instead of taking the elevator, take the stairs.
Tell you.
Don't try to park your vehicle as close as possible to your work entrance. All these are small steps one can take, but God definitely wants us to be on the move for him.
Beautiful. And Pastor, I definitely want you to come back again. I'm sure we have not exhausted all that we could have said today, but I'm sure you would have stimulated some people to at least start exercising. And of course,
trust so.
if you wish to talk with the doc, you can always call the number that appears at the bottom of your screen, and we will be happy to put you onto him or someone like him to advise you as to how you can live a healthy life. Notice, you don't need to continuously exercise your tongue by saying, I have faith. Remember, faith without works is dead. So if you have faith, let your body show it. Let your actions show it. And you will live not just for this life, but for the life to come with JC always. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. We look forward to having you once again. Goodbye.
Thank you for viewing JC 24/7. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to inspire your living as you prepare for heaven. You can get it all on JC 24/7.